And we'll begin. So welcome to the Back to School workshop. This is the opening session. We're going to be going over a few things and really just kind of get the lay of the land. But this is a 3-day event starting at 10 a.m. every day and ending at 3 p.m. Eastern time between now and Thursday. Okay, so reminders for this workshop. All sessions will be recorded and available on our conference page by next week. We will email you about that, as they become available. So that's just open to everyone, and just know that we're doing that. Everyone will receive a certificate, whether you attend, 10 sessions or 5 or 20, you're going to get a certificate. There's no need to fill anything out either. And then, as I was just saying, we hope that you're an active participant, putting comments and questions in the chat, and turning on your mic when asked. But it's okay if you're a passive participant too, whether you're making a drive or watching your kids or whatever the case may be, that is okay too. You can just listen and absorb. And if you need a break from Zoom, because we know how it can be pretty intense to be on Zoom all day, please take a break. We also, of course, have 10-minute breaks in between sessions, and we'll have lunchtime where we'll just kind of have more relaxing experiences. But please do yourself a favor and take a break if you need one. And, if you need to skip a few sessions, do so. And if you have any questions that aren't being addressed, because we do sometimes miss the questions that pop up in chat, okay? So if you have a question and it's not being answered, please email us at info@vocesdigital.com, anytime, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So who is this workshop for? I mean, the easy answer is everyone, but I just want to point out a few key groups. So it's for those who are considering Voces. So maybe you don't even have a trial yet. You're just here to learn more about it, and that's great. I would just recommend that you sign up for a trial and that you can access it as you go through this workshop and kind of look for yourself at key things that we point out and talk about. It's also for those who've been using Voces for years, as I saw some familiar names in the chat. I know you're here, and I thank you so much for growing with us, for being with us. And please know that our support for you never ends, and we're just so happy, to see you here every year. And then this workshop is for those brand new to Voces who need to learn the basics. And that's really we're going to be touching on all sorts of elements and basically all of the basics in every facet of Voces this week. So you're in the perfect spot if you're new to Voces. And take notes, and this is what I was saying a second ago, but sign up for a walkthrough, and this applies to anyone and everyone. If you need, even if you've been using Voces for 3 years, if you need a refresher course, like a one-on-one Q&A, please sign up for a walkthrough and we'll be happy to help. And thank you, Simone, for putting that link in the chat. So what will you learn this week? So you'll learn about the Voces platform. A lot of that's happening today. We'll be talking about the assignment tool, the gradebook, the editor. You will be diving deep into specific Voces titles and Voces series, so you'll become more familiar with the depths of all we offer in terms of the curriculum and the differences between them. And you will learn the basics of pacing and planning using Voces. And you'll discover new ways to engage with your students. So we have some wonderfully talented team members, or really all of our team members are wonderfully talented. And some of them will be doing sessions that just talk about cool things to do with your students and some key resources that you can use in Voces to do that. And then we'll also be telling you throughout the entire workshop different ways that you can get additional training and support throughout the year, because we're here for you for these 3 days, but that never goes away. We're here for you all year long. So now for some announcements. So new this year, these are titles that have come out this past year. We've had Primaria 1 and 2. These are elementary level Spanish CI titles. If you haven't looked yet, you should. They are beautiful, wonderful illustrations, beautiful stories, very much geared toward that younger population. We have Pokio videos in level 1, and just some awesome resources. And really, some of these resources could be used for middle or even high school students. So I really encourage you to check those out. They're masterpieces. And then we have Puentes, which is our middle school CI curriculum, which is in the process of being released. We have, I think, through 4 units currently available. And it too is a masterpiece. It's taking it up a notch in terms of kind of the rigor. It's focused on middle school students, and it is full of stories and other CI resources, lots of culture too, just a fabulous title. And then we recently released Voces por el Mundo 2, like recently as in last week, I believe. And it's not on here, but we also, I think this last year, I think in this like last school year, released Voces por el Mundo 1. So that's also pretty new. And those 2 titles are replacing the Spanish novice title that we have had for many, many years. Voces por el Mundo 1 and 2 both do a fabulous job of bringing in the grammar and vocabulary instruction and practice and combining it with the proficiency-based authentic materials and even short stories and other types of resources like that to just provide, a very comprehensive curriculum. So I highly encourage our Spanish teachers to check out all of those titles. We also released Introductory French, which mirrors our Introductory Spanish and is a wonderful exploratory course for French students in middle school. It's basically focusing on conversational French with culture mixed in. It's so like simple and clear and just perfect for those exploratory classes. We also have released our Storyscape, which is our EFL story-based curriculum for levels A1 and A2. And those also have stories throughout and grammatical instruction and vocab, etc. So if you know any English or ESL or EFL teachers who are interested in checking those out, please let them know. Or if you are one yourself, please check them out. And then we also released the level 3 of our German CI curriculum with level 4 coming soon. So lots of new stuff. And we have a lot more coming. So we just started on Voix du Monde 1 and 2. Those are going to mirror the Voces por el Mundo Spanish series, but for French. We're super excited about those too. They just have like all these wonderful elements that I think a lot of teachers will feel at home with and be excited about. Voces por el Mundo 3 will be starting soon as well. So continuing with that series and soon to replace Spanish Intermediate. Our Storyscape level 3 is being developed and German 4 will come out probably before winter or Christmas. So lots of exciting stuff. We also now have print companion textbooks. If you didn't know, they're on our website. Maybe someone could put a link to it in the chat. But we have many of these print companion textbooks available currently, as you can see here, and with more coming, as soon as we design them. And they're just fabulous. I actually have one here for Introductory French. And it's just like, it's beautiful. It's a textbook and it takes all the print friendly materials from our online versions and puts them into paper or onto paper. So they're very exciting and I encourage you to check those out. We also have lots of new readers available on Voces Unplugged, many for elementary Spanish, especially, and even elementary like French and English, and some great new higher level readers too. So that's always growing. I encourage you to check it out. There's just so many wonderful creative authors producing readers these days. And then we have a teacher's guide to our story that came out last year. So you probably have heard about it, but I just wanted to mention it because it's full of wonderful ideas on using the Our Story series. That's our CI series. Alan Lodge will be joining us kind of intermittently throughout the workshop. So you might see her in the chat. But she is a Spanish teacher and just gives all this wonderful advice and beautiful ideas for using the materials and also for classroom management, activity ideas, etc. So that's also more information on that is also on our website. And Ellen often does lots of webinars where she just shares her wonderful ideas in a webinar format. So keep an eye out for those announcements. And then we have all sorts of professional development opportunities all year long. So there's, of course, things like this, our workshop. So thank you for being here. But we also have our webinar series, which is usually, well, it's at least once a month we have a webinar starting back up in August or September, I'm not sure, soon. And I know we have some webinars at the end of this month. And so just a lot going on always. You'll see emails from us about that. We have a blog on our website with, where people contribute, beautiful blogs with like awesome ideas in them. And then we just had our very first CI Summit, which is a CI acquisition driven instruction based conference full of training and coaching and camaraderie. And it was wonderful. It was in Savannah, Georgia. And we're having another one next year in Philadelphia. So if you're interested in more information on that, we'll be sure to put the links in the chat. So just a lot going on, and it's all about supporting you, the teachers, so that you can support your students better and really bringing the community together. So you can hear from the different perspectives and educators and really just making the world a little smaller. So we also have some new Voces team members in this last calendar year, or starting back in Thanksgiving of 2022. Erica Poplinski-Burge began working with us. She's focused on the elementary series and is now transitioning to doing lots of training and just helping us out in so many different ways. You'll be hearing from her this week with lots of great ideas for the Spanish series. And then also Justin Slocum Bailey, who is also helping us update some of our curriculum currently, like writing some stories for us, helping a lot with training and coaching, and would have been in the workshop this week, but is unfortunately out. He had getting better. He had an unfortunate injury, but he's getting better, and we're so excited to have him here. So he's just been a wonderful contributor to our team. And then of course, everyone on our team, it's growing all the time. And many of these faces are new from the previous year. So we're so excited to have everyone here, and all their support and insight and creativity is just, helping us move forward. So thank you all. And of course, you could also be a contributor to all the wonderful stuff we're doing. So we're always looking for contributors, new voices, perspectives, different skill sets. So if you or someone who is a native speaker, a teacher, you're all teachers, but if you're a teacher that wants to share some of your wonderful ideas and creativity with the world, if you train teachers or have that kind of experience, if you're a writer, an artist, representatives from various backgrounds and cultures. We're looking for a lot of different people. We're always trying to grow our team. So please email me, tell me a little bit about yourself, or connect me with your friend or coworker, and we'll go from there. And one other thing that I wanted to mention before Kris jumps in, is that when you get a subscription to Voces, you get access to our entire Voces library, which is a ton of material. And I just want to kind of highlight for a minute, because we're going to be focusing on specific titles later this week, but I just want to highlight for a minute, all the many titles that you have access to. I'll be showing you how to add or remove them from your subscription in a moment here. But yeah, they're all yours if you want to use them with your students, if you want to explore them or enjoy them yourself. You do have access to them all. So and then the agenda. So just to transition now to some more specific training, we're going to be talking about key features of the Voces platform, student media privacy settings, and then Kris will be going over those two things. And then I'll jump back in and talk about customizing your title for your students and getting students logged in. So Kris, do you want me to stop sharing so that you can share, or want me to just control it?
Well, if you want to just control it, that works too.
Yeah, I'll just control it.
All right. Do you want to can you switch over to showing a logged in?
Yes.
Or do you want to, how about I'll just take it?
Yeah, I'll just let you share.
Let me find my
also Kris.
tab.
one more thing. I just realized I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is Erin Almoranti, and I'm the curriculum director here at Voces. And it's, an honor to be with you guys today. And this Kris is Kris Warshevsky is the, what's your title?
Lead programmer. I started building the Voces platform 13 years ago now.
Yeah, he's the know-it-all. No, I'm just joking. But okay, he's going to tell you about the.
All right. Where's the share screen button? There we go. And we'll move it over here so I'm not looking sideways the whole time. All right. Is that showing up?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So Erin asked me just to pick a couple of things in Voces that I wanted to highlight. And so the first is going to be the top bar. And with that top bar, we've made some minor adjustments to the way that bar displays, but it's part of a larger set of adjustments we've made across the entire platform this year to really focus on accessibility so that the Voces site is usable for students with any physical disabilities, visually impaired, anything like that, just to really try and make things easier. Which was kind of the theme with all of our updates, was making things easier to use. So taking a look at the top bar, we've changed the menus so they drop down now instead of out, which just makes them a little less sensitive to slightly moving off of them and then having them disappear. And it gives us a little more room to do things like bring out the sharing library and quick results, which I'll touch on in a minute. We also changed out the logout button. So now there's an account button here, which is where your settings will be, as well as where you can switch titles or log out. So instead of having all of those tiny tiles where you have to figure out which title you're switching to, now when you go to switch titles, it brings up the full pop-up, so it's much easier for you to figure out what you're going to. Erin, what was the next thing on my list?
One second. The next thing was new and improved editor.
All right. So Neil is actually going to go into this in detail later this afternoon, and I'm going to jump in on that session with him as well. But if you've used the editor before, you'll see that it looks very different. In addition to the style changes, we cleaned up a lot of the buttons and moved everything into the dropdown so that you can see exactly what you need to do. We added a duplicate page option. This is something that came from a lot of teacher requests. So instead of having to edit the original page, you can duplicate the page so you still have the original and you have the version that you've made changes to. When moving things around now, you can also just drag them. So no more of those up, in, over buttons. It's just a matter of dragging them or an entire folder from one spot to another and rearranging the content. All right, next I'm guessing was sharing library.
Yep.
So the sharing library is another spot where we tried to simplify it and add some of the features that we've had feedback on. So we can sort now. We can also share across multiple titles. So I'm in Nuestra Historia 1 by default. That's what I'm seeing. But I could see the entire Nuestra Historia series. If I click that, if I scroll down, there's some from 3. I can also see everything from Spanish. So now I see Spanish Novice as well as Introductory Spanish and Nuestra Historia. Or I can see all titles. And so anything from French, Spanish, Italian's all going to show up in there. Then we can sort it based on most shared, the rating, when it was created. And we've also set up direct sharing, which replaces the old sharing method. So when you share a page or a unit, you can now share it privately. So I've got all three of mine set to private, which gives you a share ID, which you can then put in here. So if you create a set of tests that you want to share with your colleagues, you can do that without sharing them with all the other teachers. That's also a great way if you have content in Nuestra Historia 1 and you want to take a story and move it over to Nuestra Historia 2, you can share that story privately and then switch over to 2 and bring it in there. All right, Erin, what was number 4 on my list? Was it search?
Search, yep.
All right. So we actually made this change in the spring. And search now goes across all titles. So it's going to show me the top results in Nuestra Historia 1. But then it's also going to show me what it finds in other titles that I have access to in my account. So I can see there's 22 in introductory. And if I click this, it's going to switch it over to that book and go right to that page. So as Erin was saying, you have access to the entire Voces library when you have Voces, and this just makes it easier to see where whatever it is you're looking for happens to be, because it might not be in the book you're currently in, or there might be more to it in the other books to help you get what you're looking for. And then I think the last thing on my list was quick results. Yep. And this was something that came up at the CI Summit. I was talking to one of our teachers and I went in and I showed him the quick results, which used to be an answer key. And then there was a quick results button at the top. And his mind was blown. It was such an amount of information there that he didn't even know he had access to. So let me see if I've got a page that has some student answers, because this is something that many of you might not know was there. So if I click quick results, and I don't have any student submissions there. Let's see. Try this one. So I can see all of the questions, and for each class, how many students got it right, how many students got it wrong, and how many did not complete it yet. So I can very quickly go through and see, okay, nobody knows what a fortnight is. We need to spend additional time working on that. And so you can see this on any page that has student input now. And I think that was the last one on my list, right, Erin? And then we're going to talk about the media privacy.
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. You can share your screen again. All right, so one more change that we made was we're continuously trying to make sure that student privacy is kept as secure and at the top of what we do. So one of the things with that is with the audio and photo options and activities that we have in Voces. Those are really considered personally identifiable information, and we want to make sure that the teachers are aware and agree to allowing students to submit those. So when you log in, if you've had access in the past, you'll see a pop-up that comes up asking you to agree to our new media privacy settings. After that, in settings, which Erin will go over, you'll be able to turn on audio or photo capture for your students. Without that, you will see this message here showing that it's blocked. If you've purchased more recently, it's a simple privacy agreement that we submit or that we send to your district admin. Once they send it over, then you're able to turn that on. So again, any questions you have on that, you can send over to info@vocesdigital.com. But it really is all just to try and protect the privacy of teachers and students.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kris. I want to change my screen before I okay, so and I'm just going to share this with everyone in case anyone else was concerned, but anytime we like create new titles like we're doing with Spanish Novice and Voces Pro Mundo, so like Voces Pro Mundo 1 and 2 is replacing Spanish Novice, and we're doing the same thing with Voix du Monde. That will be replacing French 1 and 2, but we won't turn off the original titles. Those are going to exist and you all can continue to use them just as before. It's just we're focusing our attention on the new versions, but it's what's wonderful about online curriculum is that you can just, kind of leave it running if necessary and people can just take it wherever they want it to go. Okay, so let me share my screen, and this time I'm going to share it a little differently. So we're going to talk about basically like what can you do before, before you start getting students logged in, before actually the students themselves logged in, before you, start assigning things and everything, what can you do to customize your students to sort of prepare it for your, or customize your title to prepare it for your students. So first we're going to look into settings. And setting up settings. So if I go into a title, so here I'm logged into Nuestra Historia 1, and I'm going to go to the account icon, and then I'll see the word settings, and I'm going to click on settings. And I just want to walk you through some of the things in here. The cool thing about settings is, first of all, it used to be sort of overlooked before Kris redid the toolbar. So I love how it's a little bit more, clear where it is. And there's so many cool things you can do in settings. And I feel like even if you've used Voces for 3 years or 5 years, you may not realize all the cool things you can do. So this is a chance for you to find out. So first and foremost, with our new account settings, you have access to all the books if you want, but you can also, move remove books from your account. And I say books, but I guess titles is a better word. So you can see here that I have these 4 active books in this, or titles, in this account. And then these inactive ones, this is probably specific to my account because it's a little bit of an older account. But if I wanted to add any additional titles, I just would click on that drop down and choose one and click add title. And then next time I log in to my account, I'll see that title as an option to log into. So it's as simple as that for you, the teacher. And I'll cover a little bit about how to get your students logged into multiple titles too. Second on the settings list is simply, your information, like your class ID, user ID, if you ever wanted to change it, this is where you go to do so. Or if you want to change your email from your personal email to your school email or something like that, you can do that here as well. Next is refer a friend. And this is, again, it's sometimes we talk about it in an email to all subscribers, sometimes we don't for a while, but it's a wonderful way to kind of give the gift of Voces to a friend, and then we'll be able to, personally thank you for spreading the word, because we'll know that you referred them. And sometimes we run a little contests and might give away something for referrals. So keep that in mind. You just click here to copy the link, and then when they sign up through that link, we'll know it was you who sent it. Student self-registration, that I'm going to get to in a minute when I talk about all the different ways to get your students registered, but just know it is in settings, and here it is. And it's always by default disabled. And then the Voces Game Center. And actually it's usually like this. But anyways, the Voces Game Center, that is, I'll just show you really quick, is this wonderful icon at the top. And we have all these wonderful games that people, like different presenters this week will be talking about, demonstrating, and etc. So stay tuned for more information on that. But if you didn't want the Game Center on, if you wanted to turn it off for your students, you would just click it and it would be off. So then if you just didn't want them to like be like distracted by it or something, or if you just didn't want them to, like access it for whatever reason, maybe during a test or something like that, you could just click it and it will be off. And then we also have Pedro's Adventures in Spanish for Spanish, in the Spanish titles only. And if you wanted to explore that, you could come here and turn it on. So whatever is whatever it's saying on these buttons is what it is, right, Kris? Sometimes I get kind of confused on that.
Yes. So right
okay.
now it's on, and if you click it, then it's
yeah.
off.
Okay. So then we have the Voces Quick Page Manager. So that's at the bottom of every page. And it's just a way to if you are looking at this page and you think, oh, I want to change, I want to edit this story. You can click this and it will automatically open the editor. And so it's just a really quick way to access that, and click, and you'll see the story is highlighted right there. And then you can come here and edit it or disable it or do whatever you want to it. So that's just a nice, easy way to access the editor. But if you didn't want that because maybe, you're afraid that you'll randomly click it and do something, you can always turn that off, and then you would just access the editor through the toolbar at the top, like right here. So that's another feature. And then the automated can-do statements, I love this. And by default, when you log in to your titles, it is turned off. But so you will have can-do statements at the top of the page, but they won't be automated for the students. And so let me find. So basically, if you don't, if you have that off, then students will look very similar. We'll see something like what we're seeing here. And they'll have the can do at the top, and they'll complete the activity, and then they'll click here and self-assess. But that last step is something that a lot of students might forget. So what I did was I made a video of it because I had to log into, I don't really want to hear my voice, but but basically I just want to show you guys what it looks like. So I'll just do it really quick, and I'm not even sure if you'll hear my voice on this video, but basically it makes it so that the students complete the activity, and then when they submit it, it automatically kicks that can do right there on the screen. So I'm just gonna, I don't know if you guys can hear that. So as you can see, I'm completing it, and now I'm going to submit it. So it just is a great way to push that can-do statement right front and center to the students' attention and have them see it. So again, that's in settings, and you would just click it on. And then this is another cool feature. If you want to prevent unassigned work from being submitted, so if you have those extra ambitious students who might look ahead and start completing assignments without you assigning them, and you don't want that, then you can click this to preventing unassigned submissions. So they'll only be able to submit work or submit activities that you assign, and that submit button will not be there for them for all the other activities. So it's just a very nice way to kind of control what they can do. And then here's the student media privacy settings that Kris was talking about. And then the video options. The video options, they come up, they come up in a few different ways, but so basically, if you just leave it alone, all the videos within Voces are going to be loading from Vimeo. And with Vimeo, we have some really nice features like captions and some other things. And they just run really nice. And then if you for some reason, if maybe sometimes like a school is blocking Vimeo, then you can come here and click on never play from Vimeo. And that will then load it from our server. And the versions on our servers are also like really nice. And an option that they have there is you can slow down, right, Kris? I feel like this is I don't know if Kris is listening,
Yeah,
but
you can slow it down from Vimeo as well, though.
oh, okay.
So
That's
you
what I was
can still
having a
slow it
moment.
down with the local one, but the captions aren't there.
Yeah, the captions wouldn't be there, but it works. But that's like a nice workaround if your school blocks Vimeo. And you can, if you have like, I think this is probably the case, like if you have poor internet connect, like, just weak internet, you can choose the video quality to be lower and then have like better success running it.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
just making sure. And then we, by default, allow students to slow down the videos, but you can make it so they can't. So you can really control, again, how the students experience these videos and even how you experience them based on your unique situation. Also, like more control, which is always wonderful. So you can change the way the grading works. So this is all pretty self-explanatory, but you can make it so that like the accents don't make auto-graded activity right or wrong. So you can kind of relax the restrictions on some of the auto grading, or you can make it so, it's like it requires the perfect, like the exact accent and punctuation, etc. So that's just a way of kind of like relaxing your standards or making them more specific. And then next we have the student interface style. In my video that I just played with the can do statements, I was on the simplified, oops, sorry. I was on a simplified student interface, and that is like, it's such a wonderful view for students because it's very modular and like shows things one at a time, and it's really perfect and was developed for the elementary titles. So I recommend checking that out if you are, teaching the little ones. But you can switch it in any title from the traditional Voces interface to the simplified right here. And if you have any questions about that, you can always contact us individually, but it's worth just checking out which one you think would be better. And then this is also pretty awesome. The Voces toolbar options, this is something that I feel like Kris, like someone was saying, oh, I wish the menu options were in Spanish or French or something. And we were thinking, well, you can make them that way. So Kris made it so that you can just come in here and, rename the tool options to whatever you want. You can put them in the target language, you can call them something completely different, and you can also turn them off. So if you don't want students to see, like the notes feature, or if you don't want them to see the vocab list or something, you can just turn it off and customize it. And of course, some of them can't ever be disabled because they help you, the teacher. So, but yeah, these can all be customized for you and the students. And then you just press save and it will appear. And then if you wanted the toolbar on the bottom of the page, you could switch it here. That's how it used to be. And then we put it to the top, but it's up to you. And then the rest, I mean, this is, you don't want to do until you are very, very sure is to delete all assignments and folders. And this is really an end of year thing. And then sometimes we'll have like beta testing down here, but there's nothing right now. So yeah, those are the settings. There's so much great stuff in there. It's a great, it's a very important place to look and at least consider your options when you first are setting up your title for your students. So then you want to customize the table of contents for your students. So the first thing that's like obvious, but it's so important that I just need to say it, is that you want to preview the content and get a good grasp of how the material is organized. So so if I, if I'm in like a New Oyster Story 1 and I'm a new teacher to this title, then I would recommend, attending the workshop like you are this week. And I would recommend digging in on your own and clicking around and understanding the material. We have resources like the pacing guide and scope and sequence and stuff in the resources, which we'll totally get into in depth later this week. But you want to understand what you're working with. And then once you know, oops, sorry. once you know what you want to like maybe hide from students or block students from seeing, then you just go into the editor. And, like we mentioned, I think already, there's so much you can do with the editor, but right now I'm just going to show you how to put an Apple icon or a teacher only setting on the on the table of contents. So you're basically blocking students from accessing it, making it disappear from their account so they won't even know it's there. So I'm in the editor, and I just want to mention that already, like by default, we have some sections that are blocked from students. And to be clear, what this means is that when students log in, they don't see, in this case, the integrated performance assessment. But if you assigned them any of these pages within that section, they would see and access that section from the assignment tool, which I believe Mike is going to get into soon here. So, so just know that it doesn't like delete anything, the apples don't, and it doesn't completely block students from ever accessing it, but it makes it so they only access it if you assign it. So if I want to just focus my students' attention on unit 1 and unit 1 only, then I would just click on unit 2 and click on section options. I'm still kind of getting used to the new editor, just FYI. And then I click make teacher only, and there's the apple. And that means students won't be able to see anything within unit 2, none of the stories, none of the subsections. If I wanted them to have access to some of the material, then I would just choose the material that I don't want them to see in that unit, like this story, and click make teacher only. So you can, block out entire units, you can block out sections or just pages. Like I don't want them to see the important vocabulary for some reason. And I can make that teacher only too. Like it's totally up to you. Again, it's just for when they log in, they won't see it unless you assign it. And then you'll see in your section, in your table of contents, you'll see the apple indicating that only you see it and not the students. And Amy, your question is the teacher, like, how is it? Yeah, if you disable it, you don't see it either. And actually that's something that kind of comes up sometimes, understandably, where like a teacher will go into the editor and disable things and forget or not maybe realize what that does. And then, we'll be like, where is the toucan story? And because it will be disabled, they won't see it in their account, and et cetera. So yeah, the safest thing to do is just put that teacher only block on it, that apple. Oops. Enable, yeah. Okay, so I feel like I'm running out of time and I have a lot to do. So let's see. So once you have the apples basically set, then you want to add students. So there's 3 ways to add students. And it really, the way that you choose just depends on your situation. There's manual entry or with a CSV, there's student self-registration, and there's linking with your LMS. So let's just look really quick at manual entry and with a CSV. So you're going to log in to the title that you want to add your students to. And then you're going to go to the teachers panel and click class management. It's going to open up this window and you're going to click new class. And so you're going to call it whatever makes sense. I have a few sample ones already. I'll call this one period 3 and click create. And you always get 1 sample student with your class. And then to manually add students, you would just click that class, then click add view students and click quick add. And it's pretty self-explanatory. And then you don't have to put a user ID and you just add it and then they have it. The other way to add from this, like from not self-registration and not LMS, is to do the CSV add. So I'm going to click CSV, and yes, it does sync with Google Classroom, Amy. I'll get to that in one moment. But right now I'm going to click on CSV, and then there's this wizard that walks you through it. I'm going to choose a CSV file. It's just basically a simplified Excel doc with my students' names in it. I downloaded one earlier, and it's like their first and last name, and you just, and then in this case, it's their first name in the first column, their last name in the second column, and then their user ID from their other title in the third. If I didn't have user IDs or a user ID, I just put 0, and then it would just auto-generate user IDs. Sometimes I'm looking at making sure that Kris is like that I'm not saying something wrong. But then I go to step 3, and now I see like to make sure that it's the right like first and last name, and then I finalize. And it said 19 students successfully created, refresh my student list, and now all my students are in there and they all have class IDs, or I'm sorry, user IDs, and they're all in there. So now I want them to log in. What I do is I either, well, the best way probably if you're in person, which most of us are now, thankfully, is that you click on the ID card icon here, and then you print this out and you cut these squares out and you hand them out. And then the students can go to Voces Digital, enter the class ID and user ID, and be logged in. And you can always access this. So when they forget what their user ID is, you can always get that card again, give it to them. And there's even an ID email list where it's like like auto-generated emails that you can like copy and paste into emails to your students. So they have them there too. So that's how you manually add students. The second way is to self-register. And as I mentioned before, one of the first things you have to do in order to get your students to self-register is come to account settings, and it already is enabled, but if it's disabled, then you click enabled, and now it's now they can go to this link and self-register. But there's a few things that you need to keep in mind, which are best explained on here. So let me just go over this, and I'll share this link with you, like this slideshow, so that you have this. So the first thing you do, as I just said, is enable student self-registration and settings. Then you go to class and student management and create a new class. So if you're doing this fresh, you don't have classes, you need to create classes for the students to self-register into. So you just do the new class and do, whatever the period or periods are, and you create it. Then you give students these directions, and this is actually a link to where they would self-register. It looks like this, and it's also in settings for you to copy and paste and give to them. And there's even a QR code. But basically, once you have your classes set up and student self-registration enabled, then you have the students go to that site and they choose a title. So you have to tell them what title to choose. And then they put the class ID, which is like the first ID that you use yourself. It's the one thing that's common across all your students and yourself is the class ID. And then they put their first and last name. I never know how to come up with a random name. And then they choose the class to join. So that class ID that you gave them is going to pull like all the classes that you created into here. So they just need to know what class they're in. Hopefully they know that, but sometimes they don't. And then you click create user, and now they have a class and user ID, which they can write down. They can log in at that moment, and it's automatically in your account so that you can, of course, like print out their IDs if they lose it. So self-registration is great. And then, and I'm moving a little fast, but
hold on, before you
okay.
You forgot the most important last step.
What did
for
I
student
forget?
self-registration. Turn it off after your students are done registering. If not, if they forget their login, they will just go and create a new one. If they're bored on the school bus, they'll just go and create 20. These are not hypothetical situations I'm mentioning. So you don't want 5 accounts for your students with work, like 1 page worth of work done in each one, because they can't write down their login. So as soon as your students are in there, go in, turn that off, and yeah.
That is a very good point, and that has totally happened. And yes, disable it and leave it disabled until you're ready to have another class register.
And while you're on that screen, Keely just messaged me asking if you can change your class ID. Yes, it's right there, that third button from the top. You can click that to change your class ID. But that applies to all of your titles, all of your classes. So you don't want to change it to like Spanish 1 period 1, because then your Spanish 1 period 2 is logging in using Spanish 1 period 1 as their class ID. But a lot of teachers will have it, their last name, something like that. And I'll let Erin continue now, because
so and like the class ID is what's shared between everyone, and the user ID is yours only, and don't give that to your students.
don't give it to your students.
So finally linking with your LMS, which is like the coolest way to use Voces in my opinion, but it depends on if you have an LMS. We currently connect with Canvas, Schoology, Microsoft Teams, and Google Classroom. You basically link your account, your teacher account, with your LMS, and then you can sync your classes. Like once you're logged in through your LMS, then you come here and you can just pull your classes in from your LMS, and voila, or whatever, voila, the students are in there. And then once you have synced your classes, then students simply go to Voces and log in through their LMS, and they don't have to have a class or user ID. They just log in through their LMS. And I just sped through that really quickly because there are like different steps to it depending on the LMS that you have. And luckily Mike, who is joining us here in a moment, but Mike during lunch today will be having a breakout room where if you have any questions about LMS, like how to get things going or how to use it once you have it linked, he'll be there to answer your questions. And he's like our, LMS expert, and can just help you out. So believe me, if you have LMS questions, you'll want to go see him at lunch. And if you have an LMS, like one of the 4 that we support, then I highly recommend, syncing it before school starts and just using it from the get-go. It's just a wonderful way to integrate, not only logging in, but when you assign an activity, the students get notified through their LMS. And then once they complete an activity, you can push your grades from Voces into your LMS, with basically one click. So it's just really wonderful. And I just want to mention that, I went through all this really quickly and there's going to be a lot thrown at you today. But don't, worry if you have questions, of course, put them in the chat. I love seeing those questions and we'll get, answers going there. But just know that there's lots of support outside of this workshop as well. We have videos on all of these tasks, platform specific and even some content. And then we have our our conference library on our page, and that has all the recordings from all of our past webinars and conferences and workshops. And that's where these recordings will be too. So that's there for you and it's searchable. It's wonderful. And then we also have free virtual and paid virtual training options, which you can explore on our website. But just, the free virtual training is for getting you using the platform, for answering those questions and making you comfortable, making sure that you have the knowledge to use all these wonderful tools, because the tools are useless if you don't know how to use them. So we're totally there to support you learning how and feeling confident in using them. So now I want to turn it over to Simone, who's going to tell you guys about another fun feature of the workshop, which is the games and raffles. Simone, are you here?
Yeah, I am here. Thanks, Erin. My internet's a little spotty, so I'm sorry if I'm going in and out, but I just want to let you guys know that throughout the workshop, we're going to be playing a game of Trivia Night. And if you're not familiar with Trivia Night, it is a game within the Voces Game Center that allows students, or in this case, you, to collect treasure codes. And the treasure codes give you access to trivia questions. So we'll be giving out a total of 8 codes throughout the next 3 days, and points will be given based on how quickly and accurately you answer the question. At the end of the workshop on day 3, the final session will announce the winner, and the winner will receive a $100 gift card for Voces Unplugged, which is our dedicated site for print readers. So I will drop the link to the game in the chat, as well as the very first trivia code, which is Voces. And it's not case sensitive, I don't believe, so don't worry about your capitalization, but it is Voces. So if you click on the link, enter your name, and then enter the trivia code, you'll get a trivia question, answer it quickly, so you can get points. And none of the codes will be given out in the breakout sessions. They'll only be given in the main sessions, so you don't have to worry about missing any.
That's so exciting. Thank you so much, Simone. Is there a leaderboard?
Yeah, of course. There is a leaderboard. Yeah, you'll be able to see the leaderboard after you answer the question.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so trivia night is one of the many games in the game center, and I'll just show you guys while we have a few minutes, just to confirm. It's in the game center, and it's that first one in the upper left-hand corner. And similar to the way that we're using it, you can also use it, like you can use it within Voces, but you can also use it outside of Voces too. And there are instructions for doing so here. And it's just a really fun game, you know, that whatever questions you populate with it, it will become like, it will make students competitive and get them learning while having fun.
I'm not just, I just went in and answered, and I'm not seeing a link to the leaderboard. So that's something I'm going to look at to get added in. So if anyone goes in and answers and you don't see a leaderboard option, I am going to remedy that.
Awesome.
I think I have it set up for these external ones where where only the teacher sees it in case someone were to write something inappropriate. So Simone can probably see the leaderboard, but the other students, or in this case, teachers, cannot see it, just in case there's something on there that Simone, the teacher, wouldn't want everybody to see. But I'll take a look at that and see if there's a way I can turn that on here.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording so that we can have like a manageable